Today is domain and range of continuous graphs. Now, yesterday we did interval notation. We're going to be doing our domain and range in both using interval notation and inequalities. You should be able to change back and forth. Your homework page has them in inequalities. I want to make sure that you write them down in interval notation next to the match. Okay, so first, who is domain and range? Well, domain is your x values, and range is your y values. So when you're referring to the domain, you want to make sure that there's an x variable in your answer. When you're referring to range, you want to make sure there's a y variable. Okay, so which way does your x values go? They go from left to right. Your lowest numbers are going to be on the left, and then as you move to the right, they get bigger. And this is going to be along the x-axis. Okay, your range or your y values, they move down and up. I put down first because that's your lowest number. Remember, with intervals, your lowest number is always to the left. And they move along your y-axis. Here's your x-axis, here's your y. Your y is your vertical, your x is your horizontal. Okay, so now what do we do? Well, domain is x, range is y. All right, so I'm going to look on this. And if I take a look at this, I've got arrows on my graph. That means it keeps on going. So it's going to keep on going like that, which means it'll cover all of this side of the x's. It just keeps on going. For every y value, there is an x over here. Same thing here. This one keeps going that way, so you're going to cover all of these x values. Right? So when you're covering the entire number line like that, this is a negative infinity, this is a positive infinity. So our domain goes from negative infinity to positive infinity. Remember, with infinities, you put parentheses because you can never reach them. They're not included. All right, so now if I was going to write this down in an equality, I'd say negative infinity is less than x, which is less than infinity. Remember, another name is that big capital R for all real numbers. But right now, your answers are going to be in inequality form on your match. You want to write next to the answer your interval notation. Okay, so let's go look at our y's. Okay, y moves up and down. Now, where's the lowest y for my V-shaped graph? It's right here. So you want to start right there. And how far do we go? Well, this has an arrow, so does that one. That means it keeps on going up. This will keep trending to go up in an upward motion. So will this one. So you're going to cover all of these y's that are up here, and you're going to continue going up. Okay, so my y's, my lowest number looks like a -2. And it's on the line, so if it's on the line, it's included. And then my highest is an infinity. It's positive infinity. Okay, so all the y's from -2 up are included. Okay, remember, when it has an infinity, you're going to have the variable, make sure it's a y, and the number. Remember, we have to choose. Oops, that should be a 2. A -2. I don't know why I put a 5. Okay, -2. So now, remember, we have to say, is the -2 the biggest number or is it the smallest number? If it's on the left side, it's the smallest number. That means we're getting bigger. So this would be a greater than. And since it has a bracket, or since it's included on the line, it's got the equal sign. So my range is y, all numbers greater than or equal to -2. Okay, let's go over here and look at this one. Different shape. So what we're going to do is look at our domain. Well, where does the line hit? It's right here. There's no arrows. It hits on your x-axis right there, and it hits right there. Well, you can connect those dots because for every x, there is a y value along the circle. Right? So My x value here is 1, 2, 3, negative 3, and it's included because it's actually on the circle, comma, over here, 1, 2, 3, so it's right there, positive 3, and it's also included. That's the interval notation. The inequality would be negative 3 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 3. Okay, let's look at the range. All right, on the range, it goes up and down, so find your lowest point that hits on the graph of your figure. It's right there. Okay, and then the highest is right here. So everything in between has an x value that goes with that y. Right, so we know this is y, so if I'm doing interval notation, my lowest comes first, so it's 1, 2, 3, negative 3. Put your bracket, and then it's up, 1, 2, 3, positive 3. Okay, so if I write it as an inequality, negative 3 is less than or equal to, don't forget that it's a y value when you're talking about the range, less than or equal to 3. Okay, let's go on to the next two. All right, this time we have a line over here. Okay, if you remember back from Algebra 1, we told you what the domain and range was, or we worked on it before, but anyway, let's go through this. You're just looking at the x-axis and you're looking, does your figure have arrows on both sides? Yes, this one does, so that means it's going to continue going to the left side. This one does here, so that means it's going to continue on to the right side. This one's very similar to the first figure, but the first figure was a V, but the arrows on the ends mean that it's going to continue going on. So this here is a negative infinity to infinity, or negative infinity less than x less than infinity. Okay, now let's look at our range. All right, remember we're working with a figure that has arrows on both ends. So that means that all of my y's going up and all of my y's going down. Every single one has a x value that matches it. So here again, we're going to have negative infinity, because down here this is negative infinity, and positive infinity. So this is negative infinity less than y less than infinity. Anytime you have a line that has arrows on both sides, we're not talking about a line segment or array. The domain and range for all slanted lines are all real numbers, both for the domain and for the range. Okay, let's take a look at number 4. Okay, number 4, if you remember, this is a figure that we used in Algebra 1. It's actually a quadratic. It's a parabola. It's upside down. It's an upside down parabola. Okay, so let's take a look at the domain. Remember, the domain goes on the x-axis. That's where you want to look. So you see it's right here and it's right here. Okay, but if I continue, if I look, this has got an arrow here and an arrow here. That means for the x, it's covered all the way across. So you don't want to just go where it crosses. You want to look at the ends. It's going to keep on going. So it's going to keep extending all the way to the left and all the way to the right. So here, this would be negative infinity again, because that's over here. We're looking at these arrows here. Okay, and then positive infinity. Again, that's all real numbers. But the inequality is negative infinity less than x less than infinity. Okay, now let's go look at your range. It's the y's. Okay, the lowest y is way down here. These are infinity, so that means it's going to keep going. My highest y is right here, and it's covering all of these. It's going to keep on going. All right, so my lowest is a negative infinity because it's an arrow. My highest is up here at 1, 2, 3, 4. and it is on the line. It's on the parabola, so you can put a bracket. Okay, if I was writing this out, remember you have one infinity, so you're going to write down your letter, which is Y for range, and the number on the right side, and you're going to say, okay, is 4 the biggest or is it the smallest number? Well, it's on the right side, so it is the biggest. That means it's got to be less than or equal to 4. This right here tells me if I make it a less than, it has to be a less than or equal to. Okay, so this is saying all numbers less than or equal to 4. So if you look, it is all numbers starting up here and then keeps on going down. Okay, so let's go look at number 5 and 6. All right, number 5. Number 5 is just a square on there. That's okay, it's just a figure. So you want to take a look. There's no arrows, so you don't have to worry about infinity on this one. But here's a stopping point and here's a stopping point. So you can connect those two dots. There's no arrows, so you don't have to worry about infinity. So this one looks like it's at a -1, and it's a bracket because it's on the square. And over here, this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. +5, and it's a bracket. Okay, so the way I'd write that is -1 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 5. That's the inequality. So here's your interval notation changed over to your inequality. All right, let's take a look at the range. All right, here's my y, but you have to look. In your picture, this is your lowest y. Okay, so my lowest y right there. And then this is my highest y up here. So it's all the numbers are all y's in between those right there. So if I look, y right here is 1, 2, -3. And it's on the square line, so you can put it in a bracket. This one here goes up 1, 2, 3. So this is a 3 and this is a -3. That's the y value. Okay, so then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say -3 less than or equal to y less than or equal to 3. Okay, let's look at number 6. Number 6 is a squiggly. It's a curve. Okay, but if you notice on the ends we have arrows, so you have to watch out for these arrows. Okay, and they are going left and right. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and look. You've got an arrow and it keeps on going this way. You got an arrow and it keeps on going this way. That means all of these inside here, all of the x's are covered. So this is a -infinity to infinity. Again, -infinity less than x less than infinity. That's all real numbers. Okay, now this is a little tricky on the y one because you think that it's going to keep going, and on this particular one, it does keep going. Right, so you have to kind of look at the way it goes. Sometimes when they have arrows, and you'll see one that we do in the next video because I'm going to stop here after we do this problem so I can flip it over. But here is the an arrow, and here's an arrow, and it does keep going in upward motion. So we're covering all of these numbers going this way and all the y's going here. So for this particular one, it is -infinity less than infinity, and so it's all real numbers. Don't forget to switch it to a y. So both of these are all real numbers. We're going to do one on the back that's a little bit different. Okay, I'm going to stop right here.